Is Cyrene the lost Chrysos heir? And yes, her name is pronounced Cyrene. You can go check Fine on about that.
Cyrene.
Cyrene has always been an odd character, even before Amphoreus' release. She wasn't a part of the portraits that showed the Chrysos heirs in the original teaser trailer, and she doesn't look like any of the silhouetted portraits either. Yet she appears right at the end, hinting that she is a very important character to Amphoreus. Even with that said, we still don't know much about her. All we know is that she's Phinon's childhood friend from Did Cyrene, and that she's also dead. That's also an important thing to mention. But token dead childhood friend aside, Cyrene still has a very important role for the Amphoreus story, as I believe that she's not only a Chrysos heir, but the Chrysos heir that is key to understanding Amphoreus as a whole. But before we get into why this dead girl is going to play a huge role in this story, if you like these types of theory videos, let me know by liking and subscribing, and as always, let me know your own thoughts and theories in the comments below. With that being said, let's get right into it. Let's just get this out of the way. Mem is Cyrene. It's been so heavily implied that's practically confirmed. Even before Amphoreus came out, in the official trailer, Mem turned into the feather pen that the Trailblazer uses, and then Cyrene just comes out right after. And especially during the 3.1 story quest, when we first encountered the Flame Reaver, Mem has a flashback of Cyrene being stabbed by the Flame Reaver, and Did Cyrene being burned and destroyed, which is basically Star Rail's version of confirming it without outright confirming it. If you followed me for a little bit, you might know I've made a prior theory about March 7th being Cyrene. I'm not walking back on that theory completely. I still think the points I made still stand, and that there has to be some sort of a connection between March 7th, Mem, and Cyrene. A lot of Mem's mannerisms and responses are very similar to how March 7th acts with the Trailblazer. I'm actually working on a theory about March 7th's relationship with the Titans, and that will have a bit of an updated speculation about the relationship between March 7th, Mem, and Cyrene. So subscribe to see that when that comes out, hopefully in about a week. It's very important to clarify that Cyrene is Mem, because the Trailblazer is supposed to take Orynyx's trial for the Coreflame of Time. Now, this may seem a little bit out of nowhere, but from the perspective of Phinon and the Chrysos heirs, it actually makes a lot of sense. In a millennia, they have not been able to find a single Chrysos heir that has compatibility with Orynyx. And here comes someone from the sky with powers of their own, and was the only person to have been granted power from Orynyx directly. And that power was Mem. If you actually look at all the abilities of the Trailblazer in Amphoreus, they're all actually from Mem. Mem is the one who has the power to record memories and recreate the past. We are mainly a conduit that basically guides Mem to record the right memories. So during the trial of Orynyx, I don't think the Trailblazer is going to pass. Mem's going to pass. In fact, it might actually be that the trial isn't for the Trailblazer, it's a trial for Mem, and we are going to be their companion through it. At the end of it, Mem will receive the Coreflame of Orynyx and become the demigod of time. And this could be the way that Mem gets their memory back and becomes Cyrene. It could actually be the trial itself, Cyrene having to relive her past in order to gain her memories back and prove that she's worthy. Based off of the trials that we know of, it seems a running theme is confronting past traumas. So Cyrene might need to relive the destruction of Did Cyrene and ultimately her own supposed death. Only a Chrysos heir can pass the trials of the Titans and receive their core flame. So if Cyrene/Mem is able to pass that trial, that means they have to be a Chrysos heir. Which brings me to the point of this video. What makes Cyrene a Chrysos heir? And in order to answer that question, we actually have to dive deeper into another big mystery in Amphoreus. What exactly is a Chrysos heir? See, there is a bit of an explanation about the Chrysos heirs, which is, and I quote, "The Chrysos heirs are a group of individuals imbued with great power, and some of them have the potential to take on a core flame of a titan." And that's basically it. There is really nothing else. And yes, it is mentioned that they have golden blood, but it seems implied that only the Chrysos heirs that have the potential to become demigods have golden blood, at least from the way it's explained. In fact, in the 3.0 story quest, it was confirmed that no one actually knows how Chrysos heirs are selected, or even get their power. It just happens one day, which is weird until you think about it from the perspective of the wider Star Rail universe. Because outside of Amphoreus, if someone gets special powers or abilities one day, they are considered a Pathstrider. What I think is going on is that these people are gaining special abilities in Amphoreus because they are following a path without knowing it. From the perspective of the people in Amphoreus who have no knowledge of the paths or the eons, there would be almost no way to make a distinction of what causes powers to arise because of how wide in variety the different paths are. The only thing they could probably gather is that these people were really dedicated to something. It's been confirmed a few times that people will gain abilities as a Pathstrider even if they don't intentionally follow that path or eon. The Chrysos heirs being Amphoreus' version of a Pathstrider actually helps explain another one of Amphoreus' biggest mysteries, which is what exactly are the Coreflames? Because there's really only one other example of a Pathstrider suddenly getting a power-up from a specific item without just being an emanator themselves, and that's the Stonehearts. See, each of the Stonehearts were Pathstriders that received a cornerstone which holds the authority of an Emanator of Preservation, aka Diamond, giving each of the Stonehearts unique abilities that are custom to their specific person. Which sounds a lot like what happens when a Chrysos heir takes on a Coreflame. There's actually quite a bit of similarities between the demigods and the Stonehearts. Of course, the main one being is the sudden boost in power that is completely unique to the individual, and seemingly doesn't have to relate with the path itself. The abilities of Aglaia, Maide, and Tribi are arguably as powerful and varied as Aventurine and Jade. Aglaia created a whole phone and internet system with just strings and has threatened to off people at a snap of a finger. A bit too many times for me to believe that she can't actually do it. And of course, Tribi has the ability to just teleport all over Amphoreus. There is also the extension of their lives. Jade has been alive for hundreds of years, and funny enough, so has Aglaia and Tribios. Another interesting thing to note is that it doesn't seem like the Pathstriders has to follow the same path as the Emanator granting them authority. Aventurine was originally invited to the Masked Fools, which you cannot deny is very much fitting. And Jade, honestly, I don't know where in her is preserving anything but her own entertainment. So I think there is a solid chance that the Coreflames are just another version of the Cornerstones, but made by an Emanator of a different path. Most likely an Emanator of the Remembrance, because Ornyx reveres Fuli and calls him the Sky Father. There is one major difference between the demigods and the Stonehearts though, and that's the fact that the Stonehearts were hand-selected by Diamond, and the cornerstones are said to be carved with the will of each Stoneheart. They are custom-made per person, versus the Coreflames were originally made for the Titans, and the Chrysos heirs are inheriting it. That's probably why there's a trial for the Coreflames, because they have to ensure that the next person is actually compatible with the powers that were originally made for the Titans. That is probably the reason why there's so few Chrysos heirs that are actually able to take on a Coreflame, because the Coreflames were originally made for each specific Titan, not the Chrysos heirs. And so when a Chrysos heir is actually compatible with a Coreflame, it's a big deal. And that finally brings me back to Cyrene, because Cyrene was hinted to have been a Pathstrider of the Remembrance. The first sign of this was actually at the end of the original trailer, when she says,
"This will be a romantic story like none that has come before."
And while yes, this is just a simple statement, but it also may hint at something, which is the love of stories that all Memo Keepers, the Pathstriders of Remembrance, share. And on that same note, Cyrene in the pre-release trailer also displays powers that only really fit a Memo Keeper, as she's able to just appear out of nowhere and affect reality. The only people that have been shown to be able to do that was Black Swan and Rekka in the Dreamscape. Assuming the concept of Amphoreus being a mimetic simulated world is true, then Cyrene being able to adjust reality would at the very least make her something similar to a Memo Keeper. Also, at the end of the 3.0 story quest, Cyrene uses tarot cards to tell Finon's story in a very similar fashion to Black Swan. Cyrene clearly shows some qualities of someone who would follow the Remembrance. And if my theory about the Chrysos heirs being Pathstriders is true, then Cyrene would have to be a Chrysos heir. And yes, of course it was already implied in the scene of Cyrene being stabbed and bleeding golden blood, which is a sign of not only a Chrysos heir, but someone who is fit to inherit a Coreflame. So yes, that confirms that Cyrene was supposed to be a Chrysos heir. So you might be wondering, why did we have to go through this whole entire speculation about what exactly is a Chrysos heir if an image already proved it? Well, for one thing, it is an unanswered question in Amphoreus, so you got two theories in one go. You're welcome. And second is because that image doesn't answer the question of how Cyrene became Mem. See, there's a key factor about all memo keepers that is unique to only them. They surrender their physical bodies and travel the universe in a memetic form that they can control. When Cyrene was stabbed, at that moment, she would have lost her physical body. But as a Pathstrider of the Remembrance, she could have gained the ability to separate herself to become a memetic entity, Mem. The shock of her own death or even the pain of those memories could have caused her to lose her own memories during the change, and for whatever reason became a bunny-like creature with no memories of her past. And as the Chrysos heir associated with Orynyx, Mem was drawn to Orynyx, but without the understanding of why. An interesting point is that memo keepers have the ability to change their form, and Mem is also able to do that as well. She has been shown to become the Trailblazer's pen, as well as seemingly being able to grow 10 times her original size. So I don't think Mem isn't able to change to Cyrene, it's more so that she doesn't remember who she was or how she looked before. But that's all going to change once she takes the trial of Orynyx as the rightful Chrysos heir of time. Mem will go in and Cyrene will come out as the new demigod of time. And that's all for today's theory. If you made it this far, thank you so much. As I mentioned before, I'm working on a follow-up theory about March 7th's relationship with the Titan, so look out for that. And as always, let me know your own theories and thoughts in the comments below. Peace.